Everyone's will get feedback.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We'll call our Regional Infrastructure Committee to order. Myself being vice chair, past vice chair, we lost our chair, Derek P. Wilson. Fall in the line here and chair the meeting here today. Just like to acknowledge, we have some interested people online today. We have Michelle DeFarcy. Murray Jammer he's online. He's going to have a presentation. We have Director Sweeney, which is Director of the Capital Service Commission here, and Mayor of Nashwauk. Director Rogers sends her regrets. She's not going to be able to make it today. And we have Rob Nash with the province of New Brunswick, since you had Elzamer of Gemtech. We're a little late calling the meeting to order. We had to wait, I guess, till we had a quorum here to be formal. So could I have a approval of the agenda, please? Motion?
So moved. Marty Forsyth.
Seconder? Second. All those in favor? Very minded, any motion carried. Do we have any conflict of interest to disclose this afternoon? Hearing none, we're good. Next on the agenda, we have Murray Jammer, a presentation for needs identification for trails in the capital region. So Murray, we'll call upon you.
Okay, thanks. So I do have a presentation here, and so hopefully I can share my screen here with you. Okay. Are you able to see that?
No.
iPad, that was computer research structure. That just says computer attachment. That was computer secretary. That's his iPad. One down below is I'm trying to on the video, but.
There we go.
Okay. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, well, I'll just walk through my presentation, and basically this is a study that I did for the capital region last fall. And I guess to begin with the scope, I really was asked to focus on the trails in the Nashwauk rural community from the city line out to Durham Bridge. I was asked to look at any potential issues and enhancements, look at potential conflicts among users, and look, there's going to be some of that, and also to look at lessons learned for other trails in the capital region. So to do this, look, I already spend a fair amount of time on the trails anyway, either walking or running or biking, and so I'm pretty familiar with the trail system. But some of the trails in this area, in the study area, I actually got on an ATV, and I made sure that I did cover all the, portions of the trail that were in the study zone. So I'll jump into the key recommendations, and then I'll talk about each one. So when I did my study, I looked at a pilot program for surface type, and I'll get into that. Out of my study, I guess the key recommendation is that we should look at a pilot program. There's some maintenance and repairs to be done, although the condition of the trails, the actual trail infrastructure is pretty good. I'll talk a little bit about communications with trail users, and that would be in terms of an online presence or mapping. Talk a little bit about potential upgrades to the trail system, and again, lessons learned to be applied to other trails. So the reason I say a pilot program, if you travel through look, this trail is pretty similar to other trails outside of the city of Fredericton. And if you travel through the trail system, say from city of Fredericton, Peniac, Durham Bridge, and then beyond, the trail surface is not really consistent. So as you can see from the picture here, some of the trail looks pretty, like the trail on the right of your screen looks pretty decent. So I could probably bike that with a hybrid bike.
Excuse me, Murray. The slides are not progressing there. I think you're still on the cover page of the slide of the presentation is what we're seeing here.
Well,
There you go.
okay. So if you look at the picture on the right, then you can see that that's a trail that you probably could, bike that. And the trail on the left, you'd have to be a pretty darn serious biker to be able to do that. So what I'm saying is that there's various things that we want to try, or that I would recommend trying for these trails that are outside of the city of Fredericton. In some cases, it may just be a matter of brushing off the loose gravel. So kind of picture what the city or other jurisdictions use for sweeping the sidewalks in the spring. Just brush the loose gravel off so it's not a problem for cyclists. Obviously, that's not going to work on the picture on the left. So, and that one, the solution may be to remove the loose gravel and at least add a proper surface material to the top of it. So I know what the city uses. The city uses 1/4 inch minus, and the 1/4 inch minus, or the crusher dust treatment, continues outside of the city in some places, but when you get very far outside of the city, that's not the kind of surface you get. So I know the city uses a 1/4 inch minus. I'm suggesting that you might try a section with 1/4 inch minus. Maybe a section with 3/4 inch minus is a good compromise. So it would still be acceptable for cyclists, but maybe it would stand up better to the ATVs. So as I pointed out there, the objective is to find something that's acceptable to the cyclists, but still able to withstand the ATVs. And the ATVs, look, they're going to be harder on the trails than a bicycle. So that's, like I said, that's the key recommendation. There are some instances where just some good old-fashioned maintenance or repairs are necessary. So as I pointed out, though, the trail is actually, the infrastructure is pretty good. So the fact that I'm showing, some rotten boards on one of the bridge structures or a bad culvert, don't get the impression that the whole trail is like that, because that's just not the case. And in fact, this bridge is still very passable. The rotten boards were just off to one side. So look, like any trail, does require some maintenance, some ditching, grading, and this is even if you don't do any kind of upgrades, it still requires ditching to preserve the the trail that is there, grading, culverts, vegetation control. And if you see the picture on the right there, the trees have grown in a little bit there, but there's actually examples on the trail where the trees are even closer than that. I mentioned communication with users. So if I guess particularly if I'm from outside of the capital region and I'm not used to cycling or using these trails, it would be great to have some information about what I'm going to encounter. So what's the surface condition going to be like? Where can I find amenities? Bathrooms, a place to get a snack or a beer or something like that. And then one of the other, sometimes you're on a trail and you say, gee, I'd like to point out something to the owners of this trail. I'd like to point out that there's a problem with the trail, but you can't do that because you don't know who the owner is. So all of these recommendations or all of these points are covered in a lot more detail in my report, but I'm just trying to hit the high spots here for you. So, we've talked about a pilot project for the surface condition. We've talked about some general maintenance. And now I'd like to talk about there are potential upgrades. And so look, obviously the picture that you're looking at there doesn't come from this area. It comes from up in the northern part of the province. And I'm sure that most of you are aware they've got an amazing trail system up there. Like you can bike from Caracat to Tracadie, Tracadie to Shippigan, Shippigan to Caracat. And it's a paved trail all the way through the woods. And quite a lot of it is this twin trail, so that you've got one trail for the ATVs and one trail for the cyclists. So I've been up there many times, and that's certainly the Cadillac. I'm not suggesting that this is the kind of treatment that you should do in the capital region, because actually the trail that I looked at, for most of the that trail section, this treatment wouldn't be possible anyway, because you've got the trail, but on one side you've got the river, and in most situations on the other side you have a pretty steep bank. So the thoughts of twinning a trail for most of the area, the cross section does not really allow that. But there are portions, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. I think there are a few portions where a twin trail may actually be quite a benefit. Another potential upgrade, there's one particular section where there's some really challenging grades, and so that's going to turn a lot of the cyclists off. They're not going to want to go through that, and I think that's easily fixed by either raising the grades to get rid of those challenging grades, or maybe even paving a very short section of trail. Another potential upgrade is the trail goes right through the Riverbend Golf Course. So when I look at where Riverbend is in relation to the city of Fredericton, that would be a great trip out there, maybe a trip out and back. So you go out, you have a beer, you have a snack, and then you come back. But the problem is even though the trail goes through the golf course, you can't really get from the trail to the clubhouse. So, I think there are probably things that you can do so that you can take advantage of that amenity that's out there. But it's not a real good setup now. The golfers don't want you, going across the fairway in front of them. And it's probably not the most safe thing that a cyclist could do as well. Other potential upgrades are picnic tables and rest stops. So if you've gone through this trail, goodness, this has the potential to be one of the most beautiful trails in the area because a lot of it goes right along the Nashwauk River. So apply lessons learned for other trails. You could use, have a look at how the pilot goes and use that surface condition or surface in other parts of the region as well. Maintenance and repairs on other trails. One of my favorite trails is to go out towards Keswick, and there's some culverts there. There's some cross-section issues with the trail that need to be addressed. There's actually a couple of shelters there too that if they're not addressed in the next little while, we're going to lose them. Maintenance and repairs. And also picnic tables and rest stops, just something to make it more attractive. And in the fullness of time, parking lots, bike racks. These are just a couple of shots that I took. Not very many people see this because not very many people use the trail out along the Nashwauk, but it's just gorgeous. So recommended next steps, I'm recommending the pilot. I'm recommending some urgent repairs, and I've covered those in my presentation. I think there needs to be a rationalization of where motorized vehicles are allowed and not allowed. And in my mind, it's pretty clear, like in the urban environment where you've got a lot of people using the trails, and you've got a lot of, young kids on bikes or people on scooters. I don't think you want to introduce motorized vehicles into the urban environment. But on the other hand, there's certainly a place on the trail system in New Brunswick for motorized vehicles, ATVs, skidoos in the wintertime. And I was surprised when I did my report just how many ATV users. They're pretty well organized, and there's a lot of users in New Brunswick. So if you could find a way that people could be clear on where motorized vehicles are allowed and where they're not allowed, then I think that's one of the next steps. And then further investigation. So I've kind of mentioned this anyway, a similar study for Keswick Trail and Fredericton, or the Keswick Trail. And one of my favorites is the Fredericton Oromocto Trail, because that's just a great loop if you're a bit of a keener on the bike, but also like these days, there's so many more e-bikes that it's really opened up that kind of loop for, even if you're not a dedicated biker, you can still do that loop. So twinning a short section for the ATV cyclist use. So what I'm talking about there is that there is a portion. I understand that the city would not be in favor of opening up their trails to, or the city trails to ATVs, to motorized vehicles, and I think that's right. But we understand that the ATVs would still like to get to some of the amenities, in the city, and I think that's possible. And so I would look at twinning a short section, and so you need to know just what's involved, how much is that going to cost, and it's going to require more of an investigation than what I did. And similarly, I think there's an opportunity to take advantage of Riverbend Golf Course as a key amenity that's already in place, and how could we make better use of that amenity by gaining a better access to the clubhouse. So those are my recommended next steps. I can take some questions if there are any questions, and I can talk a little bit more about cost and benefits and that kind of thing if you like. But I'll end my presentation there and take any questions.
Thank you, Murray. Very interesting. Do we have questions for Murray, either online or the table here?
Murray, your recommendation regarding the pilot, who are you recommending undertake that pilot, or do you make such a recommendation?
Yeah, I'd probably, the way that I would do that one there is I would get an engineering consultant, so not me, but I would, I could probably help you, write a proposal call so that you could get consultants, engineering consultants, to have a look at it. Tell them what you're looking to achieve, and then I would try 2 or 3 different treatments. And the treatments, I would like to try just brushing the loose stone off the top of the trail. That would be a pretty cheap fix for some of the sections, but that's hope that answers your question. That's the way that I would approach it, is that I would get an engineering consultant, because the purpose of that would be to try some things, but then actually treat it as a scientific study. How did in a year's time, in 2 years' time, how did the different surface treatments stand up?
I know, thanks, but I was thinking more in terms of whose jurisdiction, rural jurisdiction or municipal jurisdiction, that portion of the trail lies on. Would you see that being the Regional Service Commission's initiative, or the National Rural Communities Initiative?
This may be out of my area of expertise, but I think it's going to be pretty difficult with for the rural communities, and not just this rural community, but all the rural communities. I think it's going to be pretty difficult for them to take those costs on by themselves. So my cut would be that would be a regional thing, and certainly the benefits would be regional. So if you look at, let's say you improve the trail in that Nashwauk rural community, it's going to be some benefit to the people out in the Nashwauk, but it's going to be a big benefit as well for the people in the rest of the region, the people in the city, or it's going to be a big benefit to people that come to the city or come to the region from out of town. So I'm not sure that it would ever happen. And look, you folks would know a lot more about that than me, but I'm not sure it would ever happen if that was just left to the, if that was just left to the rural community.
Good on that, Grant?
Yeah, thank you.
Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Murray, in looking at this particular pilot project that you're looking at today, what would be the length of that project, like in terms of physical distance from your starting point within the city? Because I understand it's you would start it somewhere around over around the landing on the north side and heading out towards Nashwauk. Is that correct?
Well, as far as the pilot program, I don't think you need to do that, because if you bike out from the landing, you can get to the city line. The surface is good. you can actually go from the city line out to the Goodspeed Road, and the surface is still good. So I don't think you need to do the pilot program in that area. So I would, where I would start would be at that Goodspeed Road. So I think if you want to attract the most users when you make these trail improvements, then you're going to do that by sort of working your way out from the city. So I think in this particular case, I would start at the Goodspeed Road, and then look, it depends on how much money you have to spend. But I note in my report that the city uses a cost of $60 a meter. So that would be $60,000 a kilometer. And, you may be able to do it a whole lot less than that if you get out there and find that, if you're doing some volume, but also if you're finding that it's not really that difficult to create a good surface, then you may find that you can do better than that. The $60 a meter. So when I looked at it, I said, well, what if you were to start it? And I have no idea how much money that you'd be talking in a first phase. But if you had, let's say you had $500,000, and using that $60 a meter, and then starting at Goodspeed Road, I mean, goodness, you could get all the way out past the golf course and almost to Durham Bridge. So, you may not want to do that. You may want to go a portion on that trail from Goodspeed Road out, say a couple kilometers. Then you may want to try it on one of the other trails in the area, like the Keswick Trail. So anyway, those are some options, I guess.
And just one more, Mr. Chair, Murray, in terms of the usage, what type of multi-usage would you look at that? Would you ever see a time where you'd have pedestrian traffic on that trail, or just mostly bike and e-bike and motorized vehicle of some sort?
Yeah, I think you're going to have some pedestrian usage in the area, but you also may have, in the fullness of time, if people are just looking for a different experience today, rather than just walk the same trails that they've been used to walking inside the city. Look, if there's a place to go out and park your car and then walk along walk along the trail that goes along the Nash Walk, I think that would be a great experience. But the way I would see it is that it would be more cyclists. And so right now you do get the odd cyclists, but they have a lot of difficulty. The cyclists have a lot of difficulty going there. With a decent surface, you're going to see a lot more cyclists. And as I mentioned in my presentation, particularly with e-bikes, I think that would be a really attractive option.
Sorry, I'll go one last one, I promise. This is my last one. Your regular scheduled maintenance on those trails. Is there a value on a regular schedule to that they can apply? So you're looking at, maybe in a pilot out of the gate, you're looking at a 500,000, and then you're looking at a maintenance schedule. I was just wondering what the maintenance on that would look like.
Yeah, I think, look, the maintenance on those trails, a trail once built properly, boy, they're pretty inexpensive to maintain. So you do have culverts and you do have bridges. Those would be and you do have vegetation control. So, but of all probably the recreation infrastructure that you build, probably trails would be at the lower end of what maintenance would cost. And as I pointed out, if I could just say again, This trail, I showed you a few pictures of poor infrastructure, but the trail's actually looks to be in pretty good shape.
Hey Murray, there always seems to be discrepancy among pedestrian bikers and ATVs. Not so much with snowmobiles because they're running on the snow, but the ATVs, they seem to dig up the gravel and the rocks, and it makes it really tough for bikers and pedestrians. How do we get by that stage? Like they really don't even like one another, I guess, when you come down to it. So how do we get by that point?
Okay, well, a few thoughts there. First off, I got to tell you, that's not been my experience when I've been outside of the city, biking on trails where I encounter ATVs. I've had no problems at all. So, look, I'm sure that that's a conflict, but it's not a conflict that I've seen. Secondly, I think that when you get outside the city, so if I'm going biking with my grandsons, I'm going to stick to the urban environment because you know, a lot of the trails are paved, and you know, they know that they don't have to worry about motorized vehicles. I think when you go outside of the city, then you know it's going to be the more mature cyclist anyway. So you know, look, you're going to encounter the odd ATV. So that conflict, I think, can be addressed. Look, there is the issue of ATVs tend to do more damage. And so a couple thoughts I had on there is that I think a lot of the damage is done in the spring of the year. And so similar to, and I covered this in my report, similar to, you know, having spring weight restrictions for roads, I think you'd have spring weight restrictions for the trails. And then the other thing is trying to come up with a surface that is, you know, stronger for the ATVs, but still acceptable for the cyclists.
Okay, so education maybe could play you know, just make the public aware, and educate them could play a big role in this then. With
Right.
with quad NB.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And you know, look, and the other thing is that you may have to, if areas tend to get chewed up a little bit by the ATVs, you're going to have to address that. But I think these are things that are going to be overcome. And you did mention the education. I think the ATVs, you know, I did have a talk with the ATV folks when I was doing my report, and they want access to the trails. They want access to the city trails. So I think there's some room for some compromises and working together.
Okay. I have one more small question. Would you have a cost on a kilometer of pavement?
I do not.
Roughly? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Rob Nation had his hand up.
Yes, Rob.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just maybe this is known, I'm not sure, but just in the event that it isn't, the area in question for the pilot between Fredericton and and Nash, or say Stanley up that way, currently has 2 authorizations on it. So that's DNR managed former rail line. And once we leave the Fredericton city limits, I think that's the point at which it changes. The city has an authorization for what's within. What's without has an authorization for both Quad NB and Snowmobile NB. So just mentioning that. So any considerations around the pilot project or any other work would need to be, we need to keep in mind that they are the authorized users and maintainers of that trail. So they have responsibility to maintain it as well. So we need, any work would need to be done collaboratively with them, which could be seen as opportunity. The Murray, your mention of the pilot project, combined with combined with the things that have been pointed out about the challenge in maintaining trail used by ATVs and other users, in particular cyclists, is a problem elsewhere. I can think of a number of examples where our department's invested fairly significantly in trail to support a non-motorized trail user group on a trail footprint that is shared with the ATV Federation. The ATV use of that same trail has deteriorated the trail surface within a year, requiring maintenance to bring it back to the condition that our funding was intended to achieve. So my point in raising that is simply to say that there's value in getting a better understanding of whether there are different types of treatments that might stand up better to ATV use where there's where these shared usage situations occur. If the capital region or any of its municipalities were to endeavor to get an authorization for a recreational trail on this trail footprint, for example, then in that situation where you have the joint use scenario, and so having some type of plan in place that's fairly specific around how the trail will be maintained and to what standard, I think is critical. So these are all really important points that you're raising, and thanks for bringing them up, and happy to be part of any conversation going forward about how to move forward on any of this.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Do you have any other questions, concerns, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say something further to Rob's. As a cyclist, the conditions that I encounter, say, on a rural trail, they don't have to be as good as what I would expect in the urban environment. So in the urban environment, I want a smooth trail, maybe a paved trail, but as long as it's a reasonable surface outside, I'm okay with that. It doesn't need, when I go outside of the city and I go on to a shared use trail, then I'm expecting that it won't be quite as smooth as what it is, in the urban environment.
True. Grant?
Just to pick up on Rob's comment regarding DNR management of that section. I guess 2 points, and either Rob or Murray might be able to enlighten us more. Does the department have any plans to upgrade that trail as currently, given the disparity from where the city's portion ends off and where their responsibility picks up? Or Murray, even have you had any discussions when you were doing your report on their potential involvement to pick up on some of your recommendations?
So no, I haven't, and in fact, if you look at my report, I understand there's there's players involved. I'm not exactly sure who's responsible to do all this stuff. So I did note in my report that here's what I think should be done, but I didn't try to sort of sort out whose responsibility all that is.
I'll throw in here a little bit to add on. Yes, it is DNR managed land. I can't speak for those that are responsible for looking after that file, but we work with them fairly closely. Safe to say that that DNR itself would not likely plan to invest in maintaining any of that trail surface, with the exception of a safety risk and likely associated with capital infrastructure. I think like similar to the case in the Oromocto Fredericton Trail, where DNR has done or is doing bridge work over the Oromocto River. So, but so currently the maintenance expectation or the responsibility for that trail, where an authorization to the ATV Federation and the Snowmobile Federation occur, they have the responsibility to maintain the trail based on those agreements with NRED. I'll stay out of a attempt to enter any kind of detailed discussion about what the maintenance standard is. There is a former rail line maintenance standard that DNR has in place in terms of the surface condition being crowned at a given percentage. But so I think maybe answered that question around responsibility at this point. Perhaps not, but if not, let me know.
So basically, Rob, whatever municipality or whoever needs to work through Quad NB and the Snowmobile Association and DNR to get things done, and i.e. vegetation maintenance, upgrade the surface, or
Yeah, that's every bit of what you just said is correct. There's a lot of nuance to this. I'd offer to that Michelle and I can be a point of contact on this type of thing. We work with Quad NB, we work with Snowmobile NB. It's our minister that appoints Snowmobile NB as the snow vehicle trail manager, and we work very closely with NRED on both of those files. And again, with any number of other trail organizations. So one of the things we can help with is just try to be the center of a conversation around this, and try to connect and draw attention to where interests overlap or could overlap, which may not always be seen by any individual organization or department. So
yeah, thanks. Murray, where's your report available?
We can circulate.
It's here?
Yes. We can
Okay.
circulate.
John says it's here, so we're good there.
Okay.
So any more questions?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to just add to what Rob just said there. I did note in my report, and so this doesn't solve all the jurisdictional stuff, but one possibility is that the city of Fredericton has built up a pretty good level of expertise in looking after these trails. So it may be that if you do get the jurisdictional stuff sorted out, then maybe there's an opportunity for them to extend their service beyond the city boundaries. So because, like I say, they now have a pretty long history of looking after trail systems. And maybe the same is true also for the town of Oromocto.
Yeah, John Jackson just affirmed that it is. Thank you, Murray. We appreciate your expertise here. Look forward to moving these trails ahead a bit. So,
okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll call on Amanda, and she's going to give us an update on the Blue Trails, please.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, like you said, I'm here to give everyone an update on what's been going on with the Blue Trail Initiative. And I am conscious of time, so I'll just be a few minutes. So a bit of a background on the program. So Planet Hatch is the entrepreneurial arm of Ignite, which we have a couple of their board members in the room. So they're already aware of that. So Planet Hatch provides startups with support, resources, and opportunities to build and scale their businesses. The Merge program that we're talking about today was designed by Planet Hatch to connect municipalities with startups to bridge the gap between municipal needs and entrepreneurial innovation. So the CRSC has partnered with Planet Hatch in the Merge program to carry out a project on enhancing Blue Trail-based economic development and connectivity. We're currently at the request for proposal stage of that, so the RFP stage. And the goal of this initiative is to develop a comprehensive Blue Trail economic development strategy. The budget for the project is $25,000. Planet Hatch will pay for up to 75% of that, to a maximum of $18,750. Whereas CRSC will be responsible for the remaining $6,750, which we can obtain other provincial government funding to support. So we're not anticipating any cost to members for this. And also the funds that are coming from Planet Hatch are from ACOA, so the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. Currently, the program completion is projected for March 31st, 2026. I took down some notes from the actual RFP, which is, I won't go through the whole thing, but I've kind of done an overview. So it has been identified that the St. John River remains an underutilized economic and recreational asset in the region. There is currently no comprehensive strategy to map these water trails, to identify high demand areas, or evaluate their potential for business and infrastructure development. And yeah, I do want to stress that the project is more on the economic development and opportunity side of things, less so than the just mapping the trails. A coordinated Blue Trail initiative will allow for better regional connectivity, economic activity, and visitor engagement. And just to note as well, in their research, the consultant awarded this project will be contacting Fredericton Capital Region Tourism, who has already begun developing the paddling network in the region. There's also individual municipalities with their own initiatives going on, such as Arcadia is working on developing a recreational project next to a lake that they have. So once this gets going, the individual municipalities will be included as well. So the work will focus on mapping, infrastructure assessment, analyzing economic feasibility, and connectivity enhancements. In this RFP, we have made sure there's stress on including considerations for environmental sustainability, waste management, and safety. So just to mention that. The 4 objectives of the strategy are a comprehensive Blue Trail map and assessment, creating a feasibility study for economic and tourism opportunities, creating a fueling station and marina network plan, and improving overall regional connectivity through the waterways. There's currently limited access to fueling stations, marinas, and visitor services, which reduces the appeal and accessibility of the river. This also can result in lost revenue for businesses, lower engagement in water-based activities, and so on. The strategy will highlight economic opportunities such as food services, accommodations, recreational hubs. It'll include a detailed map and assessment of canoeing, kayaking, and boating routes. It will identify priority locations to improve accessibility and encourage long-term investment, and identify high traffic areas for business opportunities. We'll also explore a digital navigation and trip planning tool, so an interactive kind of trip planning tool that people can use for their recreation. The deliverables are a Blue Trail map, including routes, access points, marinas, fueling stations, so on. A full feasibility study, including business and tourism opportunities. Fueling station and marina network plan, as I mentioned, including a gap analysis and priority areas. And a regional connectivity strategy will be included as well, with recommendations for improving transportation links, business access, and tourism engagement. So in closing, this initiative aligns with community priorities by fostering collaboration among municipalities. Economic growth remains sustainable, environmentally responsible, and reflective of local needs as well is a priority. So Ignite was unable to present with this today, but they will be back next month to give more of an update. The request for proposals has been extended to April 30th. So we're still in that kind of early stage of development, and we will know more once that closes on April 30th, and Ignite is happy to come join us next month to give us some more information on that. And we're happy to, we have the copy, we can circulate the request for proposal if anyone's interested in reading the full document, so.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah, no problem.
I think there's some $380,000 in the merge program, is it not from Alcoa?
Yeah,
Total?
yeah, it was 280 or 380 for the
Yeah.
province.
Okay,
Yeah, we were there at the launch. Jenica Atwood came to Planet Hatch and she
right.
did the launch, so.
Do we have questions on Amanda's presentation? John?
Mr. Chair, I just have one more, just one comment, while we're on, I received some information on the, you had asked about pay for the trails. Or somebody did,
Pavement?
about pavement.
Yes,
And it says that the street paving is about $68 a square meter. And it can be a little bit more per square meter for trails due to the complexity of getting the equipment into the areas. So just wanted to highlight that point.
okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for those who sent it in.
Okay, do we, any questions for Amanda? Not? Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
For today, do we have any other business?
Mr. Chair, just looking for direction to staff if you'd like from the committee.
Okay. For John's comment, some directions for the staff. Moving ahead.
The only thing I can think of, would be, I guess, the information you heard today, obviously. Our group's, I guess, responsibility is to produce a vision, I guess, so. From this, we need to start talking about vision and not so much about operationalization. Yeah, we're familiar with how to do most of the things that we spoke of today, and I realize that, and I'm in a different boat, and I know the city is as well, but. I'm trying to figure out how this group can take that and share that as a broader vision. To map out, some ideas so that. The different jurisdictions can have, bilateral discussions, and talk about project that we all share a vision on. But we might work bilaterally or trilaterally and not as a whole. And that will help because it diffuses the elephant in the room, which is who's funding these projects. So I'm certainly willing to discuss vision. I'm here for that. I can help in some of the operational questions too. But at the same time, if we don't produce that vision for other communities to take and have bilateral discussions, then I feel like we'll be just circling the drain, so to speak. So with that, I just wonder if it's possible that, the next agenda have some sort of discussion on, do we all agree that there's a vision here to be had? And if so, are we going to discuss that? I'm certainly willing to engage in that. And that would probably be a good use of the committee's time.
John, I think we had that discussion in December or February, didn't we, on vision and it might not be a bad thing for that to be a topic on the next agenda. Especially when we have good vision from our not only from the cities.
Yeah, and for sure, there's jurisdictional overlap, there's quad NB, there's snowmobile NB. There's the different agreements they have to have in place with DNR. There's lots of little jurisdictional hoops to have to go through. and maybe the group said that part of that vision is outlining a how-to for the different communities to wade through that process. That is something I certainly don't mind helping with. You know, but I caution that we head down this road of what Oromocto is gonna start to pay a lion's share for a trail that, while there is benefit and we need to see that as part of our vision, you know, I kind of look at a thing where there is funding available for trails, so we can help people map the funding map, help them enter into bilateral discussions with the local governments who are most affected by that section. And then if there's a discussion on, okay, we've got 2 out of 3, and now we need to raise a little bit of funding for the last bit of it regionally, great, let's talk. But if we go into this whole 50-50 whatever math, this thing's not gonna work, quite frankly. So I want to get to a point where we can have good discussions, and perhaps it's just first really nailing down the vision and the priorities of those visions, and then starting to discuss how we help priority 1, if it's out your way. We help you develop those bilateral agreements through the vision. Perhaps you come up and you say, look, I can fund this much. We've got funding through, you know, Trails NB, there's the Great Trail, there's all these different funding mechanisms. And if there's a gap left, then let's talk. But I'm hoping that we can try to figure out how to map that for everybody.
Okay, I know our municipality is in similar to Nashwauk, like we've got a really long old rail bed line, and we don't have a lot of funding, and just don't have the deep pockets and the residences as some of the bigger municipalities have. It's been very similar to Nashwauk, so if we could do something to get these long line trail lines that could be utilized by many parties would be a big asset, I believe. So I know for one, my municipality would certainly appreciate your expertise there, and I'm sure Nashwauk, along with some of the other municipalities, would appreciate that too, so. Thank you, John. Any other new business? Hearing none, we have a motion for adjournment. So move. Have a seconder?
All set.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried, we're adjourned.